Recognizing contradictions and the path to a righteous nation question. As the contradictions that arose during South Korea's growth are gradually being revealed in 2025, I seek wisdom from my teacher. What kind of mindset and attitude should those who created these contradictions adopt in order to live righteously from now on? And how should the citizens, who are the true owners of the country, perceive and respond to these significant contradictions that are coming to light? Answer: we must first understand what contradictions truly are before we keep discussing them. The reality is that all South Korean citizens have lived with contradictions. Even while living contradictorily themselves, they criticize others for doing the same. These contradictions were created by all of us together. However, I often ask, who is the true owner of South Korea? The people of South Korea are the true owners, but they have lived for the benefit of their organizations rather than for their country. Thus, the organizations that have been the most active and influential have gained the most power, while those with weaker activity have remained less influential. Now, people claim that the opposition party is full of contradictions, but it was the ruling party that allowed these contradictions to form. The people of South Korea, who are the true owners of this country, have neglected their society for the past 15 to 20 years. While they turned a blind eye, the opposition party actively pursued its agenda. The situation unfolding in South Korea today is a call for people to wake up. Are we truly the owners of South Korea? If so, then we must take responsibility for setting things right. That is the core message. And we must not harbor hatred toward the left wing. The mistake of the right wing was creating an environment where the left could take advantage of their failures. In this sense, the left has played a role in exposing the issues that were being ignored. For example, it was Japan that pointed out the failures of the Joseon dynasty. Because Joseon was left in a state of neglect, Japan was able to colonize it and rule over it for 36 years. Likewise, a similar phenomenon is happening today. The Yulsa year, referring to years with historical significance, has always brought about cycles of downfall and resurgence. But this time, our society must not collapse. Instead, this must be a time of reckoning, a moment to ensure that our country never falls again. Once we restore our nation, we must embrace those on the left. They are our brothers and sisters. Instead of alienating and persecuting them, we must recognize their hardships and bring them back into the fold. No great nation can be run with only one side. We must closely observe those on the left. What did the right wing do wrong to make them react so aggressively? What are they trying to dismantle completely? We must carefully analyze the situation instead of blindly pushing them away. Many young people were influenced by ideological battles in schools that were aligned with leftist ideals. However, humanity has no real enemies. Are communists our enemies? No, they are not. If we handle things poorly, they might seek to harm us, but we must be wise enough to include them in a broader vision where everyone prospers together. Are the leftists in the Democratic Party not our brothers? Our society and nation are like a large family. Organizations function like small families, while our households are even smaller family units. If a younger sibling misbehaves and we push them too hard, they might rebel even more, just like how a drunk person causes a scene. This is the situation unfolding now. We must resolve it wisely and set things right so that such problems never arise again. Never hate anyone. Hate the sin, but not the person. This wisdom applies here. Our brothers are not the problem. Instead, we should worry about what caused them to end up in their current state. We must ask ourselves, what have I done wrong that South Korea is in this state? What mistakes have I made for my own household to be in disarray? Instead of blaming others, we must reflect on ourselves. That is what true leadership looks like. If we start now, the heavens will grant us strength. We must discipline ourselves and acknowledge our mistakes, saying, "We did not realize our wrongdoings. Please forgive us. We will do our best to correct them." That is the essence of a sincere prayer. Summary: recognizing contradictions and the path to a righteous nation. 1. Contradictions exist in everyone. South Korean society has developed contradictions over time, and everyone has contributed to them. People criticize others for their contradictions while ignoring their own. 2. Who is responsible for the country? The true owners of South Korea are its citizens, but they have focused more on their organizations than on the country itself. The ruling party allowed contradictions to grow, and the opposition party used this opportunity to gain influence. For 15-20 years, citizens neglected their responsibility, which led to today's problems. 3. The right approach to left-wing groups. The right wing should not hate the left wing but understand why they emerge. Instead of driving them away, they should be embraced as part of the nation. In history, external forces, like Japan during the Joseon dynasty, have pointed out internal weaknesses. Now, South Korea must take responsibility and fix its problems before external influences intervene. 4. Learning from history. The Yulsa year historically marks significant changes in Korea. This time should not be about collapse but about reforming the nation to prevent future crises. 5. A nation is like a family, the nation is a big family, and leftists are like younger siblings. If treated harshly, they will rebel, creating more division. The right approach is to understand their struggles and work together. 6. No one is the enemy. Communists or left-wing groups are not enemies. If handled wisely, they can be included in a shared vision for a better future. Hate the wrongdoing, but not the people. 7. Self-reflection is key. Instead of blaming others, individuals must ask, what have I done wrong for South Korea to be in this state? What mistakes have I made in my own family or society? True leadership comes from acknowledging mistakes and committing to improvement. 8. A call to action. If citizens sincerely recognize their faults and commit to change, divine strength, or fate, will support them. The right attitude is to pray, we did not realize our mistakes. Please forgive us. We will work hard to correct them. Conclusion. Instead of division, South Korea must unite, reflect, and work together to build a just and strong nation. I wrote the story based on the above article title. The Day the Wind Blew. Hanjin pulled out a dust-covered book from an old bookshelf. The title read, The Contradictions of Modern South Korean History. The cover was faded, but the words inside remained vivid. As he flipped through the pages, he found countless contradictions that had emerged during South Korea's growth. The book described how past decisions had shaped the present and what choices needed to be made for the future. That evening, Hanjin watched the news on TV. Once again, politicians were hurling accusations at each other. With a deep sigh, he muttered to himself, when will we truly become the owners of South Korea? As a child, his father had often told him, the people are the true owners of this country. But if they fail to act as responsible citizens, organizations and power structures will control everything. Hanjin had carried those words in his heart ever since. The next day, he visited an old library with his friends. The library was filled with historical documents, including records of past events that had shaped South Korea. As he turned the pages, he reflected on the contradictions that had emerged throughout the nation's development. Contradictions don't arise because of a single group's mistakes. They are created by all of us together. This sentence from one of the books resonated deeply with him. South Korea had been shaped by countless decisions and sacrifices, but its people had often remained bystanders. Instead of reflecting on their own responsibilities, they blamed one side while ignoring their own role. During a discussion with his friends, Hanjin posed a question. So, what can we do now? Is it enough to just point out the contradictions? His friend Soo-hyun replied, the first step is to stop hating each other. We need to realize that the left and right wings are not enemies, we are all citizens of the same country, exactly. And we must stop being passive bystanders, added Sing-joon. If there's a problem, we need to take action instead of just complaining and leaving everything to politicians. That night, Hanjin visited his father's grave for the first time in a long while. The cold wind brushed against his face. Sitting by the grave, he quietly spoke. Father, I'm ready to live as a true owner of this country. I will no longer be a bystander. I will take action. At that moment, the wind blew stronger, as if acknowledging his resolve. A few months later, Hanjin and his friends organized a small civic discussion forum. People from different political backgrounds gathered to discuss the future of South Korea. They shared ideas with respect, searching for ways to resolve issues. An elderly man at the gathering spoke up. We can have different opinions, but those differences should not divide us. Instead of dwelling on past mistakes, We should focus on how to build a better future. Hearing this, Hanjin had another realization. More important than identifying the cause of problems was asking, what can we do to solve them? We are the true owners of South Korea. And as owners, we must take responsibility. From that day on, Hanjin and his friends started making small changes. They worked to address local community issues and engaged in discussions with diverse groups to broaden their understanding. And slowly, the winds of change began to spread. The true owners of South Korea are its people. And when the people awaken, real change begins. The wind was blowing, a wind toward a new era.